Two of the roller coaster meccas in the world reside in the same state. We're going to tell you which one we think is better. Hey everyone, and welcome to Rollercoaster Rants. We've got an exciting video because this video is the start to a brand new series we're going to try and get started.
Yeah, it's going to be called Versus, and we're going to be basically putting two parks, often compared, sometimes not compared, up against each other, and we're going to see who takes the cake between the two. Today's episode, our inaugural episode of this series, is going to be none other than Cedar Point versus Kings Island, the two Ohio giants of a park.
These parks get compared so often, and I think it's just the fact that they're close in proximity, but how lucky are we that they are close by? We're very familiar with both of these parks, but this is going to be a fun game, and something that we've kind of decided is we're going to give our reactions live. So Ryan, I'll let you explain kind of what the game is going to be and how we're going to. We don't even know how the results are going to be as we start.
Yeah. We just want to kind of keep it, kind of keep it not scripted, kind of keep it off the cuff for everything. So we've got multiple categories, different point allotments, and I'll kind of go through those. We wanted to put bigger points on the coasters because this is a coaster podcast. So we're going to have our categories be thrill coasters is going to be worth 10 points out of a possible 10 points. Family coasters is going to be out of a possible 10 points. And then we've got like nostalgic, iconic coasters going to be out of 10 points. The other big one that we have that's worth 10 points is going to be operations and maintenance. And then we'll have a few 5-point categories as well, like atmosphere, theming, cleanliness, food, value, and like merch for both of the parks. So basically we're going to tally up our totals, each of us, because we're going to have different opinions on this. And we're going to put them head to head and see who wins, essentially.
Yep. So tally them up and see which park you should visit. But
you should visit both. But
you
if
should go to both.
If you can only visit one,
good
might
caveat.
help you out a little bit. Again, and let's start by saying both of these are great parks. We love both of these parks. We will go to both of these parks every single year for the foreseeable future. So it's not like because we say one's good, we're saying one's bad. They're just like two of what you could argue are the top Cedar Fair. Honestly, for roller coaster lovers, the two top parks in the world, you could argue for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of another top park in the world, and as many of you probably know, what's widely considered the best roller coaster enthusiast event in the world, Hollywood Nights at Holiday World, is going to be it's held every single May, and me and Marcus were lucky enough to get 2 tickets. So
let's go.
We will be there. We will be at Hollywood Nights, and if y'all want to get some rides with us, let us know. And we'll definitely meet up and get a couple rides on Voyage. Maybe like a nice couple trimless Voyage rides.
It'll be my first experience. So no, I'm so excited. We were super fortunate to get those tickets. Based on the Facebook group, a lot of people didn't.
I choked, to be honest. I was 20 seconds and it wasn't enough, and luckily he got a couple. We were planning on going with 4 people, but now it's just going to be us 2. But I still feel a little bad about that, but it is what it is. I tried.
My wife got cut from the list.
Yeah, and our other friend. So, it is what it is, I guess. I was very grateful that I'm able to go, but we're already set up, tickets paid for, roller coaster club membership secured. Like we are ready to go. May 30th can't come soon enough.
I know it's gonna be a lot of fun, so definitely let us know if you're gonna be there. But to the topic at hand, talking about coasters, let's just dive right into the first category that's gonna be out of 10 points, and that is none other than the thrill coaster category. Kings Island versus Cedar Point here. My goodness. I think for me, I guess we'll just start us off. Do we want to do points for Kings Island and points for Cedar Point?
Sure. Yeah, that works with me.
I think my first one for Kings Island, thrill, I'm going to go 8. I think that there's still some room to be desired, but across the board, there's so many good coasters at Kings Island, and they're just a well-rounded park. Do I think that they're missing that elite coaster? Yes, without a
Yeah.
doubt. And that's why I'm not going to give them, close to a perfect score here. But I definitely think that they're a B plus. And so I'm going to give Kings Island an 8. Ryan, would you want to go?
Yeah, I pretty much was thinking the same thing. Even before you said it, I was thinking 8. It's got a really well-rounded top 5, and they're all great coasters. Definitely missing that coaster that
Yeah,
we'll get to Cedar Point, but they might have a few of those that coasters. Um, and it's looking like we're not going to get one for the foreseeable
I
future. That might
know.
be another rant for another time that we'll talk
Yes.
about, but it looks like a family coaster is the next big one coming to Kings Island, unfortunately. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, 8 is kind of right where I'm at in the ballpark. I'd lean more towards like 7.5 to 8. That might be unfair. I think 8's a good spot because I mean you're gonna go and you're never gonna be. All their top coasters are thrill coasters, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of those, and they're gonna be fun
Yeah.
for sure. It's just not you know not really on the level of Cedar Point, but
Yeah.
it is again. You're not going to be ever disappointed with Diamondback Orion, Mystic, Beast, and Banshee. So
Yeah. I mean,
I think
they're
eight's a
really good coasters.
I think eight's a good number, and I honestly am thinking more about it now. If this is just a broad stat for any park we go on, I think it would be more like an 8.5, but I'll just give it an 8.
Yeah, I think eight's fair. I mean, it's not too high, not too low. It's respecting the what Kings Island does offer, and it offers. I mean, it's got a giga. Not every park has a giga, so definitely
No.
think that that it warrants an 8. But compared to Cedar Point takes the category for me. It's arguably the best, if not the best, roller coaster lineup in the world. It's our number one. It's got our number one coaster as of now, as of this recording, still Vengeance. I've got to give Cedar Point a 10. And it's only going to be amplified if we get a healthy Top Thrill 2 next year, as well as a Siren's Curse.
Yeah, it's the easiest 10 there is, and that's without next year. Next year it's going to go up to a 15. It's going to break the
Yeah.
scale, but it's an easy 10. You've got Steel Vengeance, going to be the best ride in any park. You've got Maverick, would be the best ride in almost any other park. You got Millennium Force, would be the best ride in almost any other park. Top Thrill 2, same thing. It goes down like the lineup's a bit top heavy, but it's just like those top coasters are so incredible that it makes up for the middle tier, which definitely is pretty good still, but um, just depending on kind of how you view them. But
Yeah.
it's without a doubt a 10.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the elite coasters are elite. I mean, you've got 4 or 5 coasters that could be number ones at just about any other park, and I think that says how top heavy that Cedar Point is, but it's how elite that those coasters are. So without a doubt, you got to give it a category of a 10 for thrill coasters. But for family, I do think that this is an area that Kings Island is trying to enhance themselves. And based on the rumors, like you alluded to, it sounds as if 2026 could be the year that Kings Island gets another family coaster. Um, it's very broad right now with a family thrill attraction, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I feel like Kings Island is geared towards more families, uh, whether you like it or not. And I think that this past year, 2024, being a new for 24 coaster, a family boomerang, very smooth, still fun. And then you've got, goodness, I know it is the Beastie. It's not that anymore, but a small wooden coaster in the front, as well as the Flying Ace
Well,
aerial
I'd
chase.
even consider more of to be honest, when I'm thinking of this category, I'm thinking as well like Adventure Express level,
Yeah. True.
and
A
even
slight more thrill, family
even
thrill.
potentially the bat and backlot, like that kind of like more of like family thrill rides as well. I'm not really considering kiddie coasters because I haven't been on them. So
Still, but I think that that goes into the category, and I think that the
yeah,
fact that Kings Island offers both those mid-tier family thrill with the true family coaster, I think it's more balanced out compared to Cedar Point. And so I would say on this, I don't want to give a 10 because I don't think that there is a 10. It'd be hard. I mean, because if you feel like a family category, you're really going towards, I don't know, maybe
It's
a,
like Dollywood, like you've
yeah,
got like a
yeah.
Big Bear Mountain or a
Um,
Disney, even like a Expedition Everest or
yes, yeah. You're going for more of an Orlando feel there. And so I would say,
Hagrid's, of course.
yeah, yeah. I would say probably an 8.59. I'll give
Round
it,
numbers only.
I'll say 9 just for
Okay.
benefit of the doubt. Maybe a little Kings Island bias coming out there, but a 9 for Kings Island for me there.
Okay. I've got it as an 8. Um, I kind of agree with all the points you said. I'm not really. For me, I don't really. I'm not rating the kid coasters because I haven't been on them. So, but Snoopy's is really good for what it is, and that's more of like a kid family. And then you've got the Bat, the Adventure Express, and Backlot Stunt Coaster, which are all more family thrill and all really fun rides. So,
Yep.
I'd say an 8, a very humble 8. For both of the categories for Kings Island so far, which is pretty balanced, of course. And if they do get a Big Bear Mountain esque ride to go into the old Vortex spot, then you could be looking at a 10 for family coasters. So
Yeah, I definitely think that would elevate it, and maybe that's the reason why they're trying to go after that possibly for 26.
yep.
So yeah, 9 for me. I'll give them just a little bit benefit of the doubt for Cedar Point. I think that there's a lot that's left to be desired. I'm kind of like you. I haven't been on many of those smaller coasters, but I would say if I had to throw out a number, I'd say 7. I just think that there's definitely more that's left to be desired for the family
Yeah.
side of things. Wild Mouse, I do think helps because was a great
Yeah.
addition.
Blue Streak. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say that's more of a family thrill. And I like Blue Streak too. But
So
yeah, I'm with you as well. 7 for me as well. I like Blue Streak and Wild Mouse a lot. Cedar Creek, nah.
yeah,
And um, do they even? I mean, what's it
they've
called?
got
Iron Dragons. I'm not a huge fan of Iron Dragon.
yeah
Gemini. I don't know if we're kind of Gemini as a family throw, then that is. But it's kind of borderline family throw, and that I love Gemini. But overall, with the amount of coasters they have, and then it's pretty thrill heavy. I don't think they're really focusing on the family aspect that much. They try to break records with pretty much every coaster. So
yep.
7's a good spot for sure for me on that.
This next one more definitely subjective because it's how you view and how you perceive coasters and what the park has to offer, and that's nostalgic slash iconic. I'll let you kind of dive into this one.
Okay.
Kind of your thoughts since I've been going
Yeah.
first.
So Kings Island. I mean, I'm just going through my head here. Beast is obviously very nostalgic, very iconic. But looking past Beast, I don't know how much we have necessarily. I mean, you've got Diamondback, which is one of the very first B&M hypers. Not the first, but one of
Yeah.
the um, the oldest ones, and it's still very classic ride. And then most of their other kind of icon, like other good rides, are all kind of newer. The Beast really carries this category for
Yeah.
Kings Island for me. And again, the nostalgic's going to be different because I have only been I didn't go there as a kid like you
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Kings Island an 8 in this category.
Okay.
Again, the Beast, if Son of Beast was still, if that was
Goodness,
still
yeah.
around, it might be a little higher. But as of right now, I say iconic rides. Besides Beast, not a whole lot for me. So I'll give it an 8.
8s across the board so far for you.
Yeah, for Kings Island.
This one I think has been hurt in recent years for me for nostalgic Kings Island. I agree. I don't think that there's really that icon outside of the Beast. You're right. It's carried in that category. As far as nostalgia goes, I would even throw the Racer in there because it was the first.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it really spearheaded the reinvigorated roller coaster interest at that point in time. And so I obviously some nostalgia there. There's a lot of nostalgia on the Coney Island type of feel. A lot of those rides are brought over, but it's not coasters. I would say, unfortunately, a seven here, and I think it's taken a dip because the removal of Vortex, while it wasn't an elite coaster, it was still a classic Arrow. And it there's a lot of nostalgia there, and a lot of people still talk about it, and I think that that's why that plot of land is held in such high regard for Kings Island fans, because it was the spot of Vortex, and it holds so much weight, and I think that's why a lot of people are kind of dismayed at the rumor that a family thrill could go in that plot of land, myself included. So I definitely think that that removal hurts Kings Island as far as the nostalgia goes, because there isn't that elite coaster icon that Kings Island has outside of the Beast. So I'm going to go seven, just because I do think it's taken a hit in recent years.
Okay, very fair, very fair. Going on to Cedar Point. Um, for me, it's a 10. It's a pretty easy 10. I mean, all of their coasters are essentially record breakers. So, I mean, you've got, I mean, Magnum was the big one. Then you've got Millennium's the big one. Then you've got First Hybrid over 200 feet with Steel Vengeance. And then like Corkscrew, first with three inversions. I mean, you just go down the line, and you've got record breaker, top thrill, of course. Like you just got record breaker, record breaker, record breaker, and they're all like very iconic. So, I mean, for me, Cedar Point's about as easy as a 10 as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
I don't really need to go any more detail. For me, it's self-explanatory. It's pretty easy 10.
I'll keep it quick too. I think it's 10. I mean, they've got the elites, they've got the record breakers. Easy. It's a 10, no doubt.
All right. So our last 10-point category is going to be operations and maintenance. Before this last trip during Haunt, I would have given Kings Island a 10. And now I've got to think about it a little bit, because it was just, there were so many people there. It really wasn't necessarily their fault. But we had a couple of pretty bad experiences on I know, like Orion especially, like the ops were just, they were sending out empty trains left and right. They were slow. And um I'll say it's a 9. Very close to a 10 on any given day. If you go to Kings Island and you're not expecting giant crowds, they're going to be amazing, incredible. Running 3 trains on pretty much anything at all times, unless like you're out there for a special event, like right now I think they're doing 2 on like
The
Misty
Winter
Timbers
Fest.
and stuff,
Yeah.
but that's because of the winter. But during the season they're going to be running 3 on pretty much everything they can. They're going fast, and they're doing a great job. Again, it might be a little unfair because we went during the busiest weekend of the year, but I'll give them still a solid 9 for me.
I echo that. It's going to be hard for me to give it a perfect. I agree. There, here at the end of the year, there was more issues, I feel like, with ride closures, just a tad bit. Orion seemed to be the common thread, but I mean, for the most part, maintenance seems to be good because there aren't as many ride closures. Operations, they're typically pretty fast, and I mean, you're looking at the crowd size for the nights that we went at Haunt. I mean, it's the busiest I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Record, it has to be close to record number of crowds. If it's not, sure, it feels that way being there. But I'll go 9 just because it's not perfect. There is a little bit of improvement, but the operations, they're friendly. They're fast and efficient for the most part. And so, yeah, definitely, I don't think it's a 10, but it's better than I think what will rate Cedar Point.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll give it a 7 for operations and maintenance. I think the operations are fairly good, but the ride closures just it's an everyday kind of thing. Every couple hours, it seemed like. We were there specifically, and this one's kind of out of their control. But Steel Vengeance was like they were trying to get that open, but busiest weekend of the year, and you only have Steel Vengeance for 1.5 days of the 4 days that you're open for the weekend. It's a little rough. And then Maverick Millennium Force, they were just going down like every other hour, and then Top Throw was a disaster, obviously. So operations, I mean, they could be better, but they're not terrible.
Yeah.
They're still pumping out trains, and yeah, I mean, I would just go. I think 7 would be kind of where I would round it. Definitely wouldn't be up to an 8, and you could argue 6 with just how bad the closures were, but I think I'm going to land on 7 on that.
Yeah, I think we had such a tough experience back whenever we went in the fall. If it wasn't for the good ride operations and getting people out there fast, maybe not as friendly as the Kings Island folks, but still they're efficient and they're fast. If it wasn't for that, I would probably say a 5 because of how just horrible it seemed. I mean, you're right. You mentioned Stevie was only open one day, and it was a half of the day that we were there out of a 3-day trip. Maybe call it unlucky, whatever you will.
I mean, that was the busiest weekend of the year, one of them. So
one of the busiest weekends, and so that being closed, and then there was at one point Millie was closed, Maverick was closed at the same time, and even Magnum, I think at one point too.
All
at
three,
the same time.
So all 3 of because Top Thrill 2, I guess. So all 4 of the big 4 coasters there were
Yeah.
closed at the same time for like an hour at least on one of the days, which is just ridiculous.
I get it. Rides are going to go down. I'm not here to go on that full rant. We've talked about it before, but there clearly is a systemic issue or something.
Yeah, and we'll get to it, but when you're charging $250 for a day on Fast Pass and you have all 3 of those rides down at the same time, that'll be more the values thing, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
So I would say 5. If it wasn't for the better ops, I'll give them an additional point
6
for how fast that they are. So a 6 for me. You hit it. You said you felt like it could go down to a 6. For me, it is.
Okay.
And I think all of that combined, so that's the last of our 10-point categories. Remaining from here out, it's all maximum of 5. This is a roller coaster podcast. We wanted to give the coasters a little bit more weight in the scaling of these totals. So the next is kind of hurt by, at Cedar Point anyway, by how busy it was and how just everything was closed, and it just kind of stunk. The atmosphere, I definitely think, was impacted at Cedar Point. The vibes in general, I think that there was a couple of spots within Cedar Point, the Grand Pavilion being one of those. Those dinner vibes are great. The boardwalk, I really love being there. But I'd say vibes for me at Cedar Point, about a 7. Like I'm gonna have fun, but it's just a little bit more stressful because of a multitude of factors, from merge points, for Fastlane, to worrying about rides are going to go down, worrying about the crowd size. There's just a lot of contributing factors for me that just kind of go downhill for the atmosphere.
Yeah, I get that. Like there's definitely good parts of the atmosphere at Cedar Point. Like you're on you're on this island peninsula, and it's just it's kind of beautiful everywhere you turn for the most part, and
gorgeous views.
And it's just like you're just seeing these awesome huge coasters everywhere you turn. But I kind of echo like a lot of the stuff you're saying. It feels more corporate-y than some of these other parks, and kind of more just, I guess, more crowded and more touristy, which I mean is fine, but it does take away from the atmosphere a little bit for sure. I'm gonna go with an 8.
Okay.
I definitely, I don't think it's a bad atmosphere, but I think it could be better for sure. And I think probably like 10 years ago, it probably would be a 9 or a 10. It's just maybe like and they're a little bit understaffed too, which kind of leads to the atmosphere not being as good as well. So
yeah,
I'd say an 8 for that.
Yeah, I think I said
Or no,
7.
I'm sorry. You said 7.
Yeah.
I'm saying a. So are you going with a 3 or a 4? This is out of 5, buddy.
Haha. Caught myself. Okay, yeah. So in that case, I would go 3.
And I'll go 4. I'll go 3.
So we're on par.
Yeah,
We're
I'll
on
go
par.
3.
Again, we're doing this on the fly, folks. Like we're literally typing in our point totals as we go.
Yeah, I'll go 3.
Okay, so we're both a 3 on the atmosphere. And the next one, I think Kings Island, their atmosphere is, I would say a 4. I do think it's a step better. But it can be a 5 for me. And I don't know, maybe that's some Kings Island bias coming in there, but I do think it depends on the day. If it's an extremely crowded day, man, it can be tough, just kind of like we experienced, but through Haunt. But I think for me on those weeknights, middle of the week when it's a little bit less crowded, you're enjoying yourself a little bit more. Rides, wait times aren't as long. It could be a 5, but for the sake of this, to be fair, because we didn't really get that experience at Cedar Point, I'm going to go 4.
Or yeah, I mean, I would say a 4. I mean, the staffing's I think friendlier for sure, and it feels like there's more of them for the most part. It feels kind of, it's kind of got like this woodsy kind of vibe where you're going through the woods on a lot of the coasters, which is awesome. Definitely above Cedar Point. I mean, it could be a better atmosphere for sure. But I do think it's got, good vibes for the most part. Everyone's kind of seems happier to be like a little, like usually if you take the normal person at Cedar Point and see how happy they are at any given time, and then take the one at Kings Island, I think the one at Kings Island for like more times than not will be happy, and the one at Cedar Point, maybe 60% of the time, if they're if everything's up and it's not crowded and kind of stuff like that, I would say 4 for me.
I think that's fair. And just a lot of contributing factors going into that. For theme, I think that both of these parks,
yeah, they definitely don't focus on it.
That is not what their mantra is. They're not going to draw you in with a really good theme, a really good story. I'm going to give Kings Island just because I do feel like one of their more recent editions of Mystic Timbers, there's a little bit more story,
but people don't even really like the story that much.
A lot. Yeah, I mean, there's
just
still a lot
it's like, I don't know. Essentially, we're not going to spoil rides for you on this podcast, but there's a shed at the end.
There's a shed, and you better not go in it.
There's a shed, but essentially, it's just a brake run with stuff that happens. I mean, there's not.
But I still the vibe of it in the fall, especially with Haunt, it adds to it. I mean, essentially, you've got a coaster, you've got a somewhat theme that they can market just a hair, and then that's about it. There's no story, and that goes for just about every coaster that's added. I do think Kings Island has a slight edge. I'm gonna go 2. I'm gonna go with 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2 as well, and I'll just keep it short. I'm also just gonna do a 2 at Cedar Point. I don't think there's enough differentiation personally, because I mean, I do think the do they call it Frontier Land or
yeah, that's probably.
I think Frontierland is probably the better themed area in both parks combined. But Kings Island has more theming, I think, than Cedar Point. Again, neither are solid. Really, neither are that good at all. So, I would say 2. I'll just keep it short and do both of mine and say 2 for both.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I think if you've got Frontier, the Frontier part, Cedar Point,
and Top Thrill 2, it looked pretty cool from what I saw on the.
It was cool, and the boardwalk. I mean, we've already said boardwalk was really cool. I think another 2 is a good wash there. No park really stands out above the other, outside of Rivertown and Coney Mall. I mean, they've got Action Zone, but that doesn't even fit. It's not good.
No, that's a bad themed area. I do like the like Enrique's Cantina and Adventure
Yep,
Express. That's
Ventureport.
good. That's pretty good. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
but
But
that's a new one.
it's
So
brand
I
new,
mean,
so it should be good.
yeah,
Yeah.
new for 23. So yeah, it's a good wash. No category really sticks itself above the next.
All right. Well, let's
Um,
hop on to cleanliness,
yeah,
which is our next category. With Kings Island cleanliness, I do feel like it's definitely not bad.
yeah,
Um, I feel like it's also not great. It's just I don't know. I feel like higher populated areas with like not great, like higher populated parks with not great staffing is just gonna be worse cleanliness. That's just kind
yeah,
of something they can't really avoid. I'll go with 3 on it. I think that's pretty fair.
yeah.
I don't have a whole lot much else to say. You probably know that a little more since I only went to Kings Island like 4 times last year, and you
Yeah.
went like 1,000. So, but I would go with the 3.
3 is I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's a 3. I think I made a note in one of our recent episodes that I do think it's kind of taken maybe a step back just a bit. I would have probably given it a 4 a couple of years ago. I feel like I don't know, maybe some of the bathrooms being outdated, just a little bit more dirty. Overall, the walkways are pretty clean for the most part. I don't feel grossed out whenever I sit down and eat somewhere. But the same can be said for Cedar Point. I would probably give it a 3 as well. I think they're very equivalent in that way. So I'll go a wash and go both threes for.
I gave Cedar Point a 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bathrooms are kind of a little worse for wear when we went in Cedar Point, and I don't know, like I hate when you go out to eat food and there's like like trash on the table
Yeah.
and stuff, and you have to move on. So, um, again, I think it's just more because there were a lot of people there.
Yeah, that didn't
They
help.
don't, and it's just I think it really just comes down to them just not having the proper staff needed for the parks. Like, I mean, like Holiday World would be a 5 on this, but it's easier because
Yeah.
you've got a lot less people, you've got less ground to cover, and their bathrooms look literally like restaurant bathrooms. It's
Yeah.
crazy, but like
And maybe that's why I feel like Kings Island's maybe taking a step back because my first time going to Holiday World was
yeah.
back in August, and so I got to experience that, and as well as sitting down and eating. I can't remember the Thanksgiving themed diner that we ate at. It was really
Plymouth
clean.
Rock Cafe.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really clean. So maybe that's why it skewed my perception just a little bit the back half of this year. So
Speaking
so
of
I
food,
speaking of
that
food,
segues us right
segue.
on in to food. Um, hmm, Food, Kings Island. I don't know. I don't get to try into places because I go with you and you just
Yeah.
eat like 3 things. But I'll go a solid 4 right now. But pending could go higher, could go lower depending on when. It probably won't go lower, but it could definitely go higher. Um, for the most part, I've got what I've had. I've liked. I wouldn't say absolutely love, but for theme park food, really good. Um, yeah, again, I just want to get in and try more things when I'm not going with Marcus and he just eats 2 different things. So yeah,
Hey, I'm exploring. I got the mac and cheese bar at Winterfest this past
I'm down
weekend.
to
So
try that. That sounds
yeah,
good.
it was
That
really
sounds good.
good. I think this one, kind of Cedar Fair as a whole, something that they tried to do, and I think that they're going to try and do for Six Flags now that they're all one. I think upping the food game. I think that was a mission for Cedar Fair of recent years. A lot of good food options. There's not that many. I can't go and tell you that I've had a really bad experience at this place versus that place. Both Cedar Point and Kings Island to me are very good. You're at an amusement park and you're able to get steak. You're able to get pizza on a flatbread and barbecue, pulled pork, good barbecue. I really enjoy it. I prefer Kings Island's barbecue, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm going through the options here. There's a lot to eat. There's a lot of good stuff. So I'm going to give both 4.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I'm gonna give both 4. From what I ate, I would do actually a slight edge to Cedar Point, but they're really close.
yeah,
I loved the burnt ends when I got them last time we went to the Coney place though at Kings Island.
yeah,
But the atmosphere and food, I know kind of going to the other one, but of the Grand Pavilion at Cedar Point was amazing. So
yeah.
It was so nice eating your food outside, looking over the beach, and during sunset. That was incredible.
That
Um,
experience in and of itself, I mean, just
and then
raised
really the
home five
barbecue
sports.
experience. I like the barbecue at Cedar Point a lot. It's just like we were eating it like on a bench because it was so crowded we couldn't even get a seat. And if
Yeah,
we could, there was just bees everywhere. Like kind of again, that's more atmosphere, but
yeah.
kind of
And I
let me
won't
down a little bit on
hold.
that.
I won't hold as far as atmosphere goes. I know we're going back just a bit, but I won't hold the bees and for Cedar Point
Yeah,
especially
that's
the
more something that can't really
seagulls.
help for the most part.
Well, yeah, cleanliness on the seagulls and the bird poop, and then the mayflies. Whenever
Yeah,
Cedar Point has the mayflies, I won't hold that nature aspect against them. There's not much you can do about
yeah. There's gonna be
that.
some drawbacks from having that beautiful
Yeah,
that beautiful scene of a park.
you're on a peninsula, and there are some things that come with it. But yeah, I mean, wash it for. I think that both parks are really good.
I think that's fair.
Um, Now, kind of the value, bang for your buck. This one's a tough one, because I think it's very subjective. I think our experience this past year.
Well, I think we just have to go with we don't have passes. Just if we were buying stuff outright,
True.
that's what we have to rate it as.
If I had to buy a single day ticket, um,
What is a single day ticket? Like 60 for what is it different
I think
for
it.
each
Yeah,
park?
I think it ranges depending on what deal you get. It probably 40 to 60 or 70.
I mean, is Kings Island cheaper? Or are they about the same?
I think they're about the same
Okay.
without looking at it
Yeah,
specifically.
this is going to be one that's a lot easier when we're comparing two different chains of parks. It's going to be a
Yes,
little, um, but yeah. I mean, what are you going to go ahead with the?
I if value best bang for your buck. I think if you're going to go to a park and you're wanting to ride coasters, you're wanting for just the overall better experience. I think your best bang for buck's going to be at Kings Island.
Well, no,
I don't
yeah, but just give scores because yeah, we're not
give me a
comparing.
4. Give me a 4 for Kings
Okay,
Island.
and then what about Cedar Point? 3 or 2 or what?
I think 3. I mean, you're still getting world class coasters. It's just how many can you get on? I'll say 3.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't really thinking like value of getting on coasters. Like I think like for me, spending $60 is worth going to ride some of the best coasters in the world for sure. I was more comparing them. So I think looking at it like that, um, I don't know. I would say Kings Island. I would go with the 4. Cedar Points. I don't know. I mean, I feel like their normal fast pass is around $100, right? On a day that's not crazy, or is their normal
I think
weekend more?
I think normal weekend is more.
Well, I
I
would
think
go
that everyone.
3 just because again, those people like literally were they spent $250 and then couldn't even ride some of the best rides in the park
Yeah,
because they were just down over. So, I would be so upset if that happened to me. If you just make like a 1 day trip or 2 day trip and then that happens. Again, that's kind of a tough one. I'll go because I think like Cedar Point. I think spending $60 and then going to that park, even if you have a bad day, is probably still worth your money. At least for us, it is because you're still getting to get on. You know, even if it's crowded, you get to get on 5 coasters, 6 coasters all day. It's probably worth $60. I mean, maybe not, but um,
having to wait 2-3 hours. That's the only thing. It's like, man,
yeah, I know that's
it's
where it gets
tough.
tough. That's why I would say 3 for Cedar Point and Kings Island a 4.
Yeah,
This one's kind of hard for us to rate because we have all the passes and crap. So yeah, we don't. I don't. We don't really know how long and bad the regular lines are, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. It's goodness. We went to Cedar Point 2010, and
Yeah,
we waited in regular lines, and
I don't
so
remember
distant
at all.
memory, distant
Yeah,
memory. So yeah, I think just a slight edge. So 4 for Kings Island, and then a 3 for Cedar Point for me.
and our final category. That's me too. 4 Kings Island, 3 Cedar Point. Final category is gonna be merchandise. Uh, Merchandise.
That's tough.
It is tough. I mean, I think I just feel like the quantity is more at Cedar. Like Cedar Point, every big ride has a whole shop dedicated to it. They have that whole front kind of thing with all shops. Like there's like
Yeah.
I'd say there's probably like 6 to 8 shops on that, where opposed to Kings Island there's probably like 3 or 4. I just think there's more. Um, I would give. I think I'm gonna give Cedar Point a slight edge, but both good. I think I'll give Cedar Point a 5 and Kings Island a 4, because there have been like times where I've wanted to get a shirt like for a haunt and I didn't find one I liked at
Yeah.
Kings Island. I had multiple to choose from at Cedar Point.
Very true.
But I think there's a lot of great merchandise. I got this. Look at this. Talk about merchandise. I have a Mystic Timbers Tervis coffee cup. So I love it still. And I have probably more stuff from Mystic or from Kings Island. It's really expensive either way, but
A good
it's
quality cup, though.
quality. It's quality, yeah. So again, I'll go Cedar Point 5 and Kings Island 4. I like both a lot though. I haven't been disappointed with one piece of merchandise I've bought either. So I'll let you
This,
go, and then I'm going to tally up my points.
yeah, this is tough for me because I do agree. I think that there is a little bit more variety. You mentioned specifically on Cedar Point the variety of the haunt options.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
agree.
That was a big one for me because I didn't even get a haunt shirt at Kings Island, which kind of sucked.
Yeah, yeah. I think that there's more variety there. Um, for me, I'm a big coffee mug person, and I have a very hard time finding coffee mugs at Cedar Point. They just feel cheaply made. They're more stickers rather than like engraved. It's just not as good for me. So I would definitely give the edge to Kings Island and the coffee cup sector if there's a category specifically for it. But I do think that the variety is better on specific events because the hunt and Halloween weekends, there was 2 or 3 things I could have gotten for Halloween weekends, but there was only like one cup I could get for hunt this year. And I didn't even get a haunt cup last year because I didn't like the designs. So I think all that to say they kind of balance out for me. I'm going to give both of them a 4 because there are pros and cons to both. So with that said, since you've tallied yours up, I'll let you go ahead and give your total. And I think, let me make sure my math is correct here. This is out of a total possible score of 70.
Mine was really close, as expected. As expected. If you only care about coasters, I have a different winner. So, only going coasters, my Kings Island score is a 33, and my Cedar Point score is a 34. If you tally up everything we talked about today, when you bring in the atmosphere, when you bring in the cleanliness, when you bring in the value, when you bring in the merch, the food, the theming, I think Kings Island is the better park according to the numbers. It edges it out 55 or 54 to 53, 1 point.
Wow.
So I mean, pretty much. I guess I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Yeah.
We jotted down all the numbers of what I thought on the fly. I thought Kings Island would win by 5, 6, 7. To be honest, I think just in general, you'd expect a better time from going to Kings Island than Cedar Point. Obviously, the coasters are better at Cedar Point by a lot for me. I love the coasters, and maybe next year this will change because I'm not against giving coasters thrill. I'm not against giving that category a 12 if they're that good. Next year, if Siren's Curse and Top Thrill 2 are like in my top 10, that's getting a 12.
We're going to redo the video.
It's passing Kings Island. But yeah, I mean, I thought Kings Island would win. I didn't think it would be this close. 54 to 53, essentially a wash. I can't give a big, strong opinion either way on which one to go to because they're both incredible, amazing parks. That being said, like potential, Cedar Point, its potential is a lot higher just because of how good the roller coasters are. They just have some things they need to shore up. So that's kind of my last thought takeaways. But 54 to 53 is my official score Kings Island in favor. So, I mean, in this versus battle, Kings Island is the winner.
That's cool. I mean, it's pretty close. I think that is a story to tell because I'm the same way. I felt like there would be a little bit more disparity between the two because I'll be the first to admit I do have some Kings Island bias. My final score was Kings Island 54 and Cedar Point 52. So
really
I mean, we're
close.
very close there.
Probably just on the merchandise. We were dead even until the last
yeah,
one.
which again, this is not scripted. We typing out numbers as we go.
Yeah, sure. It's not.
Yeah, little do they know. But looking specifically at the roller coasters, mine was 33 to 33, so it was even between the two. It was.
Well, going back,
it was.
What do you think? You looking back, you kind of agree with? Well, I guess because operations and maintenance is really what is the. If you take that one out, then it would be
yeah, and I agree with what you said.
And if we had to weigh more, like we just did this to make it kind of easy and to be more fair to other parks. But like if we were going what we actually cared about when going to coasters thrill would be out of 20. So to be honest, Cedar Point would have won. That's what we really care about mainly,
Yeah. Well, and I think that needs to be said is that ultimately the coaster category is unequivocally better. Although my points say they're even, I think that if you remove the mere fact of operations and maintenance and stuff going down for us, the coaster category is better at Cedar Point.
Yeah, and that's why we did this format. So you can, if what you care about, we rated them all specifically. So if if you care about family coasters, Kings Island's probably going to be the better spot. If you care about thrill coasters, you're not going to get or iconic rides. I mean, Cedar Point's going to be the best place in the entire world. So, yeah.
Well, as a total, Rollercoaster Rants is saying us here 108 to 105. We feel like Kings Island barely edges out Cedar Point as the better park or the one that you had to go to if you only had one day to spend at a park. It's going to be Kings Island.
I can live with that. But
I can live with that too. Because ultimately, I think that story says both parks you're going to go, you're going to have a great time. It's just depends on
Kings
what you
Island won this, but which one am I looking forward to going to next more? Cedar Point for sure.
Ooh.
I cannot. I mean, come on, Top Thrill 2 and Siren's Curse. You're telling me
I'm not going to sit here and say that. No, I've rode so many, Diamondback more than 100 times in the last year. So yeah, I'm ready to go get on some new coasters, and I don't want that to be. That's why I said in our "Is Cedar Point overrated?" Video that it wasn't overrated to me. I'm still going to go. I'm still going to get the elite coasters because I want to ride them.
And okay, I'm going to throw this out here. With this, Marcus doesn't even know about this. This is on the spot. I'm going to throw this out here. Our next versus is going to be Kentucky Kingdom, this shirt, versus Holiday World.
Oh man!
So
I didn't know about this.
Look out for that episode in the coming weeks, and that is our next versus. Should be fun. Two smaller parks. Not both family parks because Hershend is actually putting in 20 million in the next couple of years.
25 million.
25 million in the Kentucky Kingdom the next couple of years, which is going to be awesome. But two smaller parks, we're going from really big parks to, medium-sized parks. So should be fun episode. Any last couple things you want to say, Marco?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, ultimately, these two parks, I know we're pitting them against one another, but regardless of whichever one you go to, you're going to have a fun time. I think that needs to be said. So a lot of fun. I had a great time trying to figure this out and seeing how it stacks up. The points tell a story that these parks are very, very close.
Yeah, they are. It's amazing. Two amazing parks. Kings Island edged it out, but for me, it could have went either way for sure. So
yep.
We'll be back to both parks many, many, many times in the future. And again, nothing negative really, overall to say about either one of them. You're going to enjoy your time either way, for sure.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Which one, if you had to give it ratings and you got the categories.
How smart are we? Let us know.
Yeah. Or how dumb are we? We'll take both. Let us know how wrong we are. But if you can backtrack, do all the categories for yourself, comment down below. Let us know your points total out of 70 for each park. Be sure to follow along, subscribe here on YouTube, as well as Spotify for podcasts, TikTok. We're getting a lot of people telling us how dumb we are over there. So one guy saying that we should be embarrassed for some of our comments. So let us know what you think.
He's embarrassed us. I'm super embarrassed of that.
Yeah, I'm super
Totally.
embarrassed. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you guys.